Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon of the Chabad House of Delmar, and today we have a very special guest, who's a regular guest on our show. This is Marc Gronich, a political reporter from the capital. Marc, how are you doing today?
Well, thank you for having me on the program again.
Well, today, usually we're always talking politics with you, but now we're going to switch from one section of the, if we say the newspaper, to the other section of entertainment tonight, maybe we can call it that way, because we're going to be talking about a famous, we're really fairly famous now, Matisyahu. I could say that he's really famous. I mean, I'm not really up on the rock and roll, so you're going to have to fill me in.
Well, he has 5 albums or 6 albums, and he performs to 80,000 people at certain concerts.
Really?
And, you know, he's on a tour of 5 or 6 cities. From Albany, he went to Syracuse, and you know, he's just continuing to go around. He's going to Toronto and Montreal. So there's, you know, he does have an audience and a following. So I guess he is a big star.
Yeah.
And
well, for me, but the interesting thing, if people are not familiar with me, we should introduce for. If you see Matisyahu, you would look kind of like me, maybe a little less gray in the beard over here. We won't talk about that. But, you know, a Hasidic Jew, bottom line, that's what I'm trying to bring out. And here he's with a black hat. I don't wear my black hat on stage here, but in any case, he has his black hat and beard and a Hasidic Jew, and he really is a Hasidic Jew. It's not just maybe an actor kind of things. You know, people act and they put on all kinds of makeup and all kinds of costume, but he's truly a Hasidic Jew. And on the other hand, we just saying, I don't know if it's on the other hand, he's a very popular rock star, which is very, very unique. I mean, you've had, people are probably not familiar, I mean, Jewish music, and we could talk about that really, about how Jewish music has evolved throughout the ages. You have, of course, cantorial music. Truth of the matter is, we can really go even more basic in history, where there was music in the temple, and I'm talking about 2,000 years ago, in the Beis HaMikdash in the temple in Jerusalem. People know about the Western Wall. That's the only thing that's remains from it. But when there was a real temple, Levium really played instruments, and it wasn't just one guy on a harmonica. I mean, literally, it was like an orchestra, and there was a whole, I mean, really accompaniment of singers, and this was the service in the temple. So really music goes back like literally to ancient times
and
in the Jewish way.
A lot of people think it just goes back as far as Al Jolson.
Yeah.
But it really goes back before the 1920s. So, no, it does go back a very long way, and there are many instruments that have been involved with Jewish music as well. And you know, we had a chance to see the concert at the Washington Avenue Armory in Albany. And how did you enjoy it? Did you think it was a good?
Well, again, I'm not the person to talk about rock and roll over there. I don't know if it's relevant, but I mean.
But you absorbed it. You took it in. You.
I took it in. It's interesting. I was trying to simulate if this is really Jewish music. I was going to say music has evolved, or Jewish music has evolved, but Jewish music has evolved, and you have really a mixture between, I mean, rock and roll and reggae and different kinds of music with the Jewish. He puts Jewish words into it, of course, and a little bit of a Jewish feeling from it. So it's, I think, a unique mixture.
The first song in the concert was the Shemona Esrei, was the Amidah. I mean, did you find that shocking that he used that on stage?
I don't know if I find it shocking. I mean, I don't know what his message wants to be. I mean, I don't know him personally. I mean, I met him a few times, you know, hello, how do you do, acquaintances. I don't know what he's trying to get out. I mean, again, I was looking through different people's eyes, so to speak, when they were doing, there was a lot of young, well, mostly young people there at the concert, and there were some very Jewish-minded kids. I was wondering what they took it as. I mean, I felt good for them. I mean, again, imposing myself into their frame of mind, where here this guy, like you were saying, is on the top of the charts, and here he could, you know, his music's about Shemona Esrei. I mean, you had, of course, many times, you have Bob Dylan. And Bob Dylan's father was a cantor, so he came from a musical tradition also.
And Al Jolson's father was a cantor, and Al Jolson was trained to be a cantor. His real name was Asa Yolson, and that's you know what the jazz singer is all about, which Neil Diamond, who's Jewish, was started also. You know,
so you have this tradition, a Jewish tradition of families, and people went out to rock and roll. The difference with Bob Dylan, again, I'm not an expert to really, you know, definitively say, but you don't hear any Jewish music, so to speak. He's a rock and roll star, a folk singer who happens to be Jewish.
Billy Joel is the same way. He's Jewish by name, and you don't hear anything about his Judaism in his songs.
Music. That's why I say this is fairly unique over here, and that's why I felt good about it from that perspective when I saw the Jewish people there were you know, it's nice. All right, like you say, you always feel good. Hey, a Jewish guy made it, you know, and hey, that Bob Dylan's Jewish, and then Bobby Zimmerman is his real name also. Talk about Al Jolson. His real name's Bobby. Oh, a Jewish kid has made it. Great for him, you know, and you feel good. Hey, his father's a cantor. But what's he doing for Judaism, on the other hand? And, like we say, practically nothing. And that's him, maybe make Jewish people good, feel good that there's a Jewish, you know, rock and roll star. But this person, you know, here he made a blessing, you know, on his Jews. How a Jewish person makes a blessing on everything they eat and drink. Sometimes you mumble it or something like that. You say it real fast. And he made it a whole big half a speech and a whole thing. You know, God's everywhere. And now I'm going to take a drink on stage. And, you know, here I just feeling for these kids. We're saying, hey, I could be proud to be a Jewish person. I could be hip. You know, it's one thing. Okay, I'll give up the hip style. I'll be an old fogey, an old-fashioned person, and I'll go to the temple. And there's always a few kids like that, but here, you know, majority or not, hey, I want to be with it. I want to be with my friends.
And the non-Jewish attendees at the concert from Brattleboro, Vermont, from the western part of Massachusetts, and Pittsfield and Lenox, the Berkshires, you know, they appreciated Matisyahu as much as the Jewish attendees did. I mean, it was really a nice mix of the society of the whole region of the Northeast coming together, and we had about 2,000 people at this concert.
No, it's a very nice thing, but it's interesting that you say the non-Jewish people there weren't appreciated, but again, I mean, I guess I'm coming for, you know, everybody has from their own perspective. I'm a rabbi, and I'm just looking out for the Jewish people to see if they learn about Judaism. And, you know, kids are always turned off high school, college, because, you know, they want to be in with it and hip, and that unfortunately doesn't mean to be Jewish, so to speak, you know, go to the mainstream and to lose their Judaism. And here they see, hey, the non-Jews will respect you. You know, there's nothing to be ashamed of. You could be Jewish. Guys, like I say, looking like me and hip-hop, and they're paying money, and they're dancing along with his music. You know, and it's these strings are hanging out of his pants, you know.
Tzitzis was there, and he was jumping around on stage like he had pogo sticks, and he had the springs in his feet. I mean, it was amazing. He jumped up on the platform behind the drums, and he jumped up on the speakers on the sides, those huge speakers that are always there, and he jumped all the way on top of that. And he was just like, you know, jumping and having a grand old time and dancing like Bob Marley might, you know. And now I did some research, and I found out some about what Matisyahu, how he came to this point. So I thought I'd share that with the audience.
That's good. Just
and I did some history, so if you bear with me, maybe I could read some of what I had found out. But Matisyahu's English name is Matthew Paul Miller. He's 27 years old and was born in Westchester, Pennsylvania. He grew up in White Plains in Westchester County, New York, a suburb of New York City. He was raised as a Reconstructionist Jew, which is the opposite end of the spectrum, if you will, from being an ultra-Orthodox Jew. His parents never remembered his Hebrew name he received at the time of his bris, so when Matisyahu was in Hebrew school, he was given the name of Matisyahu because it was the closest English derivative to Matthew. And the name means gift of God. And the biblical Hebrew name, Matisyahu, refers to the Hasmonean leader Matisyahu, who began the revolt against the Seleucid Empire during the 2nd century BCE. The original certificate from his bris was eventually found, and he discovered that his actual Hebrew name was Fivish Herschel. And he was advised by his rabbis to continue using the Hebrew name he had grown up with. Matisyahu's long trek towards Orthodox Judaism began when he was 16 in 1995, when Matisyahu took part in a semester-long program that offers students first-hand exploration of Jewish heritage at Alexander Muss High School in Had HaSharon, Israel. Through his adventures in Colorado, Israel, Oregon, and New York City, he not only heard a profound spiritual calling, but he discerned a revolutionary way to share his discoveries and reflections via the reggae and hip-hop sounds that had long been an integral part of his day-to-day soundtrack. His experiences there significantly affected his feelings towards Judaism and music. He became a Baal Tshuva around 2001 through the Chabad of Washington Square in New York City. In 2001, he also began playing with the Jewish band Pei Dalet. He now lives in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Matisyahu studied Torah seriously in Hadar HaTorah, a yeshiva for returnees to Judaism, and he wrote and recorded his first album while still a student there. He counts Bob Marley, Fish, God Street Wine, and Rabbi Shlomo Carlebach among his musical inspirations, and gives credit to Rabbi Simon Jacobson's book, Toward a Meaningful Life, for the lyrical inspiration to Youth's title track. Youth is Matisyahu's current big hit album. It's important to note that Matisyahu does not perform in concert on Friday nights in observance of Shabbos. Most of his songs are almost entirely in English with just a few words of Hebrew and Yiddish sprinkled in. His reggae vocal style is along the lines of traditional Rasta roots stylings mixed with dubbed sound. The past year has been remarkable for Matisyahu. In November of 2005, the singer was among the top 5 members in the American Jewish community, according to the newspaper The Forward. Matisyahu was given an Esky for Most Lovable Oddball in Esquire's 2006 Esky Music Awards. The magazine called him the most intriguing reggae artist in the world. The live version of the song King Without a Crown broke into the modern rock top 10 in 2006. The accompanying video and new album Youth were released in March of this year. On March 16th, Youth was Billboard magazine's #1 digital album, and by April 4th was ranked 16th on iTunes top albums. During June 2006, Matisyahu was the Xbox Live Artist of the Month, with the videos for Youth and the live recording of King Without a Crown available to download from Xbox Live in high def. Matisyahu's album Youth is described as a compelling mix of ancient and modern sounds and ideas. The propulsive title track, with its rallying cry, "Youth is the engine of the world," draws upon Matisyahu's studies of Chabad Rabbi Nachman Mendel Schneerson, as well as his own tumultuous past. Also, his most recent accomplished output of exposure was his live showing in front of more than 80,000 people at the Banaru Music Festival 2006. In the spring of 2006, Matisyahu cut ties with his label J-Dub, a subsidiary of the Epic label owned by Sony BMG Music Entertainment. The Chicago Tribune's Kevin Pang has described Matisyahu's performance as soul-shaking brand of dancehall reggae, a show that captures both the jam band vibe of Fish and the ska punk of Sublime. Sublime's another group. Reviewers generally agree that Matisyahu may disappoint reggae purists, but acknowledge the unique blend of musical traditions that Matisyahu harnesses generally please the people who see his performances. Matisyahu's style has been compared to Jude the Maccabee, an Orthodox Jew from Florida, who includes religious lyrics within a musical style derived from hip-hop. Matisyahu mixes in contemporary stylings of rap and beatboxing, similar to Sublime, as well as the traditional Chazan style of Jewish cantors and Hasidic Nigunim songs. In an interview with Chabad.org, a popular Jewish website, Matisyahu states that all of my songs are influenced and inspired by the teachings that inspire me. I want my music to have meaning, to be able to touch people and make them think. Hasidim teaches that music is the quill of the soul. Music taps into a very deep place and speaks to us in a way that regularly words can't. Matisyahu will give his hometown fans a holiday treat this Hanukkah when he kicks off the first annual Festival of Light concert series at Hammerstein Ballroom in New York City. Matisyahu will be joined by his band Roots Tonic and a different special opening act each night in mid-December. So that's what I found out about Matisyahu. I hope that brings this program a little bit more in focus, and that people who are in the audience out there who didn't get to see him, we invited him on this program, and his schedule was too busy, so maybe another time that he's passing through Albany, he'll stop by the Jewish View and be our guest. Because
we'll have a personal view of him.
Yeah, we'd like to hear his actual words. I mean, but I did have some quotes that he did give to some other print publications. Yeah, but he says that that Hasidim teaches that music is the quill of the soul. What does that mean?
Well, it's just that music is a very high level, and again, as we just said before, that really was an expression in the temple. Now, that's not just for entertainment. You're talking about the holiest place in the world in Judaism, and I mean, just think about it for a second, and here they said, hey, we want music. I mean, it's not they, it's Hashem himself set up a whole musical structure into it, part of the service. So, I mean, it doesn't take too much thinking into it, that it's a very spiritual outlet. Of course, music can, you know, degrade people in certain senses, but on the other hand, I mean, people feel uplifted when they listen to music. And it's just not a haphazard idea. It really is something at a higher level, especially even a song without words. Sometimes a song with words is expressing your feelings. Sometimes a song without words, it just let your soul fly away. So it's an expression. I mean, what's words? Words, you say how a person are the way they speak over here. They are what they speak. And you can see if they're smart or stupid or their feelings. I mean, it's an expression. You're communicating yourself through words. And really, music does that also. It expresses just a deeper feeling of yourself than even words can.
Is a choir more acceptable in some parts of Judaism than another? And given that you're talking about music is a big part of it.
What do you mean accepted?
You see choirs and.
Well, instead of the bands, you're saying?
No, you just see choirs in some synagogues, but not in others.
Well, that's a little bit of a practical idea with the involvement of Judaism. Jewish life. Truth is, you could say the same thing for cantors. Cantors used to be a very, very big thing, like the big synagogues. But it's around the 1960s, we can say around 40 and 50 years ago, where people, it was like a show. So the cantor, ho, ho, would sing, everybody would sit there listening. More the communal service where everybody say, hey, I want to express myself also. I just don't want to go for a show and let that person sing for me. Actually, the cantor, that in Hebrew is called shliach tzibur, which means the messenger of the community. So in a way, he is a messenger to bring his prayers. That doesn't mean he should do it and nobody else should do it. So more of this kind of like in the 60s expression, hey, I want to pray too. I don't want just somebody praying for me or expressing my feelings. So therefore, cantorial, truth of the matter, in synagogues and temple have gone down. You don't see cantors like there were, in America, the 1920s and 1930s, and there were famous cantors. There are some, but it's really, most parts, synagogues just want to say, someone who sings and let everybody get involved, like community kind of idea. And that's where the same idea with choirs, where it's more like a show. It's like a cantor with a choir, and let's sit back and enjoy it, where people say, hey, I want to sing too, I want to join, and let everybody join.
Just like the chazan you're saying isn't as popular maybe as he used to be, the choir has been more relegated towards Reformed synagogues.
Well, a little bit, because like it's what I say before, many times in Reform they don't know they don't know the Hebrew, and they come in a few times a year, so they don't know how to pray. Says, okay, you take care of it. Let's hear a nice show. Where again, people who do know how to pray, they're more into let's join together. And even a little bit with the Matisyahu, which I don't know how to compare it to other rock and roll bands, but he was wanted everybody to join in with him, because that's really more of the modern day kind of idea, especially in Judaism, where let everybody have a piece of the action, let everybody get involved.
He must be something at his synagogue, wherever he davens, he must really be quite, I don't know if he leads or if he is up there maybe as the chazan, but when he starts to sing, I wonder if everyone else quiets down, or quiets down just to hear his voice,
I don't
know. It would be interesting.
I know he lives in Crown Heights in Brooklyn, and the home of the Lubavitcher Hasidim, but I don't know what he does over there. Maybe professionally, maybe he just doesn't.
You know what really amazed me was that after the concert, when we had a chance to daven Mariv, the evening service with him, he seemed very quiet. All of a sudden, he was this big showman on stage, and he was bouncing around, and he was interacting with the audience. And then when people talked to him, he sat there, he listened, he nodded, and he soaked in what everyone wanted to tell him. He really didn't offer a lot of over-the-top antics after the show. He was very much the average guy walking down the street. In fact, before the concert, he actually just walked through the main floor instead of going through the back door and going into the dressing room. He walked right through with the security detail he had, but he walked through the main floor, and people who could recognize him or knew who he was could go over and just chat with him before the concert. And I've never really seen that happen, but
they look a regular guy. Actually, I talked to, they call themselves groupie, Lubavitcher Hasidim, that hang around with him, go around to other concerts with him. And they say really is, like you just said, very quiet himself. And sometimes they're amazed. All of a sudden he starts belting it out on stage. Where did that guy come from? Because usually a quiet guy is a quiet guy. So again, it's interesting his persona that he, he's quiet, but then maybe he knows how to put on a show. So I don't know how he is privately, really.
Maybe we can get him to the Delmar Chabad for Yontif or something, and
get a big crowd there.
That's right. We'll certainly get a big crowd. We hope you'll let him lead the service if he wants to.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if he would want to. Maybe that's not his thing over here. Maybe professional or things like that. He only does it for on stage over here.
Well, you know what? He was here at Savannah's. This is the third time he was in Albany. And one time he was at Savannah's, which is a jazz club on Pearl Street in Albany, downtown Albany. And I think that was free. I don't think they charged for that. But now, when I read all the top 10 this past year, he's really come up in the charts and zoomed up, and he's got Sony and BMI and the all the other big labels that he's trying to deal with. And I guess everyone needs a cut. So, I guess they're charging maybe around $30, $40 a ticket now for his shows.
Or you get famous, that's what you get. It's interesting to watch.
It's still better than the $200 tickets Billy Joel's he commands, but that's something that he'll attain that maybe. I'm just wondering if, obviously he's not here to ask him, but if he was here, I would want to know if he has any long-term goals to continue this. I mean, he's 27 now. Does he want to continue this for the next 20 years? Or is his goal to just simply make as much money as he can now, and then, because his wife is pregnant with their second child, he has one child already, and she was obviously pregnant last night, and and we just, really had I'm just wondering if he's going to just not do so many concerts and build a family and raise a family, because his wife obviously can't be going around on tour with him, with all the kids,
On the other hand, I mean, I don't know about the business, but is it just maybe a few years? He's an in-thing now, and then later on, the uniqueness will wear off, and then he'll just fade away into the darkness. I don't know how the business
Youth
goes.
might be a one-hit wonder, and maybe he'll get in, and it'll be very interesting. In Cleveland, Ohio, there's the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and it'll be very interesting to see if maybe one day he attains that type of status to get in there, because there's a whole section in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for one-hit wonders.
Really?
Yeah, and artists you've never heard of, who the songs, but you never heard of the artist. And
they had one great song.
And they had like one great song, that was it. They made their money, they went home. And I'm just wondering if maybe Matisyahu might have long-range goals where he wants to do this for a long time, or if he's saying, all right, I'm 27, I'll do this for another 5 years, have a few more kids, the family will get too big, I'll have to stay home. He may record, but he may not tour. He just may go into the recording booth.
Or else, I mean, depends how much of a following he has afterwards, or maybe, like I say, he comes out of fashion, becomes old hat, and, the rock world goes on to something else.
Yeah.
It could go anyway, I guess.
But I mean, they still have a core following where, I mean, you go into a Sam Goody or some record store, and you'll see, they still have records, I don't know, the CD store maybe, and you'll see that the artists that say, wow, is Peggy Lee still selling? Who's buying Peggy Lee albums? And
the people they had, and they still like her.
And they still buy, and she's still, you can still find her albums beyond Blue Note record shop, So it's just interesting to see if that would be what his future will be. Yeah.
Well, we'll have to stay tuned ourselves, see what his future.
Stay tuned.
We'll have to figure out, but. It's interesting. Again, I just feel good that we had the last few minutes just to reiterate that. I mean, I guess, I'm a rabbi, so I don't look at it as a music reviewer. You're saying, how's the music? Or, I can't compare it to anything. But again, from a Jewish point of view, it's very, very unique. I mean, in a way, it's shtick for the world out there. A little bit it's unique because, hey, look at this. Hasidic rock and roll, it's crazy, it's fun. It's, like Esquire said, this is a little bit weird. But
the other thing is you didn't see women running up on stage or rushing the stage and pulling on tzitzis and trying to. Some concerts, people try to touch. And you saw when he had this bottle of Coke, I think it was, and he was drinking, and then he gave it to someone down on the stage when he was finished, and this wow went up. I got Matisyahu soda.
Yeah.
And for him, he probably gives soda to everyone in Crown Heights, and no one goes, wow, But there's some connection there. Yeah? And, there's another thing that people weren't saying, oh, what is this? They come, they expect it. They heard they know his music. People around me were singing along with the words.
They knew it well enough.
They knew Yeah, they know the words, they know the lyrics. It was totally amazing. People who weren't even Jewish were singing Jewish words and Hebrew words that I know, But it was almost to an extent of, let's say, like an American artist, like let's say a Michael Jackson going to Japan, and no one in Japan knowing the words Michael Jackson's actually singing, let's say, or in, let's say, Sweden or someplace, but they like the beat, they like the music, they like the stage show, but the words aren't being translated in Swedish, in Dutch or whatever, or in Japanese.
They don't really understand.
They don't really understand. I mean, I've been to Filipino karaoke bars, and you look at the words on the karaoke machines in Filipino, and you just don't know what the meaning is. You don't know what they're saying, but you like the beat, you like the sounds, you
sing along with it.
You kind of hum along.
Like opera in a way. Maybe opera, you have that also.
Well, opera, you have the words now up at the top of the screen, or at the Met, they have in the back of the seat in front of you, they have a screen with the words.
Really?
Yeah, they have a little TV screen there, built into the seats.
Not like the olden times.
Not like the olden times. You had a little light and you had to look in the...
Figure it out.
So.
Well, Mark, we're just about out of time. So in any case, Marc Gronich, our political reporter today, is our entertainment reporter. So in any case, he carries many hats. And in any case, the bottom line is very interesting experience that, it is the Jewish view, and something about a Jewish rock and roll star is something unique enough to sit here and talk about. And like I say, for the non-Jews, it's interesting that they respect the Jewish person, and for the Jewish people there, that they can feel proud that, you don't have to dump your Judaism to be popular. You can be Jewish, and people will respect you, which is, I've always said as a rabbi, people say, oh, you walk around with a beard and like this. As the non-Jewish people, I know a lot of non-Jews, and they all respect me. I don't have any disrespect. It's not Poland before World War II or something, or Germany. It's a free country. It's a beautiful country, of course. We talked many times in America. And people are tolerant and respectful. And I tell that to the other Jewish people. You don't have to be scared of your Judaism. People, if anything, will respect you for what you are.
And we certainly saw that at the concert, yes.
Yeah, so I think that's important.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Always a pleasure, Mark. Thank you very much.